this, I will say this, the stories about this bubble were really, you should go read the Chris Haynes story. They're really interesting. Baseball had the advantage of time. When they were arguing with each other, they had months and months. NBA players had about a day to get this crap figured out. Like, it was intense. Like, these guys, I mean, listen, I've been in negotiations my whole life with agents and stuff. Stuff takes forever. Basketball guys had a day to figure this out. Like, it was intense, and Shams is now joining us again. Shams, do you believe how close were we to not continuing the season?
Sorry for the technical difficulties. Yeah. There's no question the league, the players, they were close. And when you have the two powerhouse teams in the NBA, the Lakers and the Clippers, vote to boycott the remainder of the season, those players went into that meeting believing everyone would be on the same page, everyone would be unified. But word started to get around in that meeting that the Bucks intended to play. Their plan was to continue playing. The Bucks really blindsided a lot of players, a lot of teams across the league when they made that decision. They went rogue essentially and made that decision to boycott the game, and a lot of the players followed suit. They also wanted to unify and sit out, but once it was clear that the consensus and the majority of players wanted to continue playing, the Lakers and Clippers went back that evening, had their meetings, with each other, with other rival players across the league, and 4 or 5 in the morning into Thursday. The consensus was pretty clear among the players, owners, teams across the league that the games would go on.
Besides LeBron and players, was there a coach, perhaps, Shams, that had power in these meetings, that was being listened to, that had a plea on either side?
Yeah, I mean, you have the signature players, Chris Paul, Andre Iguodala, who are NBPA leadership, but two people that were very vocal, I'm told, in that meeting were Doc Rivers, the head coach of the Clippers, and John Lucas, the assistant coach in Houston. Doc Rivers' message to the players was, you guys need to look in the mirror to create real change. You guys are making the stand, but only 20% of you guys are registered voters. That needs to be 85%, I'm told Rivers told the players. And that was a direct message that you guys have to get your own house in order before you can, allow and create change. And John Lucas's message was similar in that you need to use your financial resources and empower people and put people in positions that can make these changes. And just trying to explain to the players how fortunate they are to have a platform he didn't have as a player decades ago. And so those are the two figures from a coaching perspective that did have a loud voice in the meeting. But other than that, that meeting was tense. It was all over the place. It was scattered. It had a lot of opinions. Obviously, two major teams, were planning not to play even late into Wednesday night. But as the hours went on, it became clearer and clearer. And Udonis Haslem asked LeBron James, asked the remaining players in that room was, if you two aren't going to play, what does that leave for the rest of us? Because everyone understands if LeBron James and those two teams are not playing, there wouldn't be games.
I think I've said this about the NBA. We're very fortunate in my lifetime. Most of the greatest NBA players have also been great leaders and good guys. They don't get into trouble, like Magic and Bird, and I mean, you can just go through them. And Shaq and Duncan and LeBron, they're listeners. They're vocal. They're good guys. I'd want face of my league. It's interesting with LeBron because he's really embraced power, Shams. Michael Jordan was rich and talented and popular, but a lot of times didn't want to deal with certain conflicts with GMs and owners. LeBron's put his arms around all this stuff. And I wonder sometimes, do you think Doc got through to LeBron? Does LeBron have certain people that he listens to, Shams, around the NBA? Because LeBron's obviously capable of listening to stuff and changing his mind. Who does LeBron lean on, I guess?
I think LeBron was talking to a lot of people late into Wednesday night, into Thursday. You have your teammates, people in his inner circle, and just trying to get, LeBron James, I'm sure, has connections to whether, it's business figures, politicians that he really trusts, everyone in the industry, I'm sure he can rely on. And so, from my understanding is he, underwent a lot of conversations Wednesday night, Thursday morning, as did a lot of other players, just soul searching, trying to figure out what the best decision for the collective was. And when he and the Lakers arrived to the meeting, 45 minutes late, I'm told, on Thursday. The decision was pretty much made. The Lakers were on board, and LeBron James understood the majority of players wanted to continue playing. And at the end of the day, LeBron James has always been an advocate for playing as long as the environments were safe. And, if everyone wanted to sit, I think LeBron James would have backed that as well. So it was about the majority of players. And, LeBron James has a responsibility he's put on himself in terms of taking stands and really being a vocal presence in social, culture.
Yeah. All right, good stuff, Shams. Good update. That Doc Rivers is fascinating. So Doc Rivers came out and basically said, hey, 20% of you guys are registered to vote. It's got to be 80%. And by the way, that's not an easy message because the players had the momentum and the leverage here. And for Doc to stand up to him, I mean, that's notable, right? Like that's a big moment. That would be hard for me as a player to not consume and go, yeah, I'm a little responsible too. Like that's a real message, right?
Yeah, there's no question. Doc Rivers, his big message to those players was, you guys need to get the house in order first. And just the platform that these players are afforded. I think what him and John Lucas wanted to get across was how important it is to really use the platform. And, another thing John Lucas told the players was, where is this type of energy when there isn't, shooting of Jacob Blake? Why isn't this more consistent? And, these players gathered and met this week. But, I spoke to one player and he said, why weren't we doing this the first week we got to Orlando? Why wasn't this being held initially as we rebooted the season? And so there are a lot of questions. Again, Colin, this is a complex situation. There's no right. There's no wrong answer. Just a lot of people trying to make the right decision.
Good stuff. Always love your work, Shams. Thanks so much for joining us in the bubble, bud.